Welcome, Reds, to the 100% United pod. I hope you've all had a great Christmas period. I'm your host, TC. Here's my co-host, Scott. How was Christmas, Scott?
Very nice, thanks. How was yours?
Very nice, thank you very much, mate. And obviously improved by United taking 6 points. We're covering both of our back-to-back Christmas wins. 4-1 against Newcastle at Old Trafford on Boxing Day. 0-2 away at Burnley over the weekend. Transfer rumours, all the news too. First, Scott, it was looking bleak after 20 minutes on Boxing Day. Great reaction for United and a great few days.
Yeah, it reminded me of the last time we played Newcastle at home. We gave away sloppy 2 goals to start, but thankfully we didn't have to wait too long for us to kick into gear.
We really didn't, did we? It was a Boxing Day special from United, really. We are the Boxing Day Kings, the best win percentage of any Premier League team on Boxing Day. Pretty much same old thing as yesteryear, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminded me of when we played Newcastle a few years ago and we had a nice comeback, if you remember that game.
What, with Alexis Sanchez grabbing the winner in the last minute?
No, a few years before that you and I were supposed to go to that Boxing Day game, but we missed our bus.
Here we go.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. I don't remember, Scott. I don't know what you're talking about.
2012. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't remind me of that year either. We'll be covering that on the end of decade pod, I'm sure. Look, we began the match against Newcastle. David De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka on the right, Lindelof, Maguire, the centre-back partnership as well. Luke Shaw in on the left, Tomine, Fred, Andreas Pereira starting in the number 10 position, Mason Greenwood out on the right, Martial number 9, Rashford out on the left as number 10. What do you make of the lineup, Scott?
I really like the front three. The link-up play was just beautiful, and you see the more that Martial and Rashford are learning how to play together. You add Mason into the mix, and it seems like they're just a natural trio up front. I don't like Pereira on the right as much as I like him in that number 10, so I thought he played well in that number 10 as well. Yeah,
I think with that front three, what I like about it is it kind of makes the midfield honest. It's 3 strikers, isn't it? Mm-hmm. If you're honest, let's not mess around here. Greenwood is a striker, Martial's a striker, Rashford's a striker. Look, I know Greenwood and Rashford are strikers who can play wide. Martial is too. But you've got 3 guys up there who are forward thinking. They wanna get shots off. They wanna link up and attack. And I know you said Martial and Rashford maybe are learning to play with each other. To my mind, they've always been good at playing with each other. It's just that, and we'll be watching now, of course, with January coming up. There's been many times where they've both been fit and on form. They've had a few games in a row, and we think, God, this is a match made in heaven. And then one of them goes missing, and they're out of the team for a few weeks injured, and then it seems like it takes a few weeks for it to build back up again, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, against the smaller teams, we've had a problem just getting shots. And so I think having 3 strikers on the pitch is going to improve our chances of at least getting shots on target. And as you can see, you just get a few shots on target and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think as well, we are lacking creation from the midfield at times. If you've got 3 people up front making runs, offering themselves, getting into positions, it does make it easier for the likes of Pereira, McTominay and Fred, picking them out as well, I think.
For sure, and it's very hard for the defence to pick them up when they're all pretty much playing a free role and allowed to drift inside or outside whenever they please.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott, totally. I do like the look of that front 3 as a combination. But as we said at the top of the show, we were looking in all sorts of trouble after 17th minute. Who would have thought it? Matty Longstaff, his first 2 Newcastle goals against Manchester United, home and away. God, I must say, I thought Harry Maguire was awful in the build-up to that goal. He got held off way too easily by Joe Linton in my eyes, and it was pretty easy stuff.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't his best moment. But I think we're suffering from nerves. I think we're nervous against these smaller teams. We know we're supposed to beat them, but we just can't make it happen. And if anything, we just started the game a bit nervously, and the goal was just a manifestation of that.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, we have reacted badly to goals conceded, but we only had to wait 7 minutes. Andreas Pereira with an assist. I know we've doubted. We've said that Lingard, Pereira, Luke Shaw as well are not providing enough assists. Ball played in by Luke Shaw, just laid off by Pereira. Martial, you have to say that the Newcastle keeper should be doing better there, but we've had our fair share of keeping errors too recently, so we'll take whatever comes our way, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yes, very, very, very nice, because we're used to keepers having worldies, aren't we? Even going back to the 90s, the noughties, blooming Brad Friedel never blooming stopped, did he? The amount of goalkeeping world-class performances I've seen from keepers who are not world-class at the time. we will definitely take anything that comes our way. Just 12 minutes later, Scott, Mason Greenwood, God, he was just sizing it up from outside the box, doing his thing, unleash an absolute Wurlitzer in off the bar, one of my favourites, down the middle as well. Dubravka all over the shop. You've got to say Mason Greenwood is taking his chances like no one else, eh?
Yeah, and who else would you want that to fall to but him? Just got an eye for goal. It's the first thing on his list to do. And it came from us pressing them really high up, some sloppy defending from them again. And it's nice to pounce on defending mishaps when it goes your way sometimes.
Yeah, and as we said, Scott, look, having a front three where you've got a left winger who's wanting to cut in on his right foot and have digs and cause havoc, and you've got a guy on the right who's, well, of course, he's both footed, but he's really, really good on his left, isn't he, Mason Greenwood? So he's cutting into that left, keeping people guessing. It looks a lot more dangerous, I must say. Look, I love Danny James too. I love the option he gives us, but at the same time, we've been working off really just three guys up front, haven't we? We've had Rashford, Martial, and Danny James. If any of them are out, we put anyone in there. So Lingard, as you say, Pereira on the right as well. Now having three proper attackers up there is making a big difference, I think.
Yeah, I think we're learning as well that against the smaller teams, Danny James is getting smashed off the park.
Yeah,
and to have someone who's cutting in and making, the fullbacks be a little bit less, orthodox than what they're used to. I think it's better to play against the smaller teams.
Yeah, no. Also, I guess it is nice that we're giving the opposition a sort of a bit of a guessing game as well. So they don't know if they're going to be playing against this absolute out and out winger who's going to be hugging the touchline, total gas, getting crosses in with his right foot, causing trouble in that way, or you've got this guy who's like a very unusual player who's kind of like a centre forward playing out on the right. He's still causing trouble, but he's cutting in more. So in terms of choosing that left centre back and left back and giving them tactics in which to thwart us with, of course, we're giving them more guesswork from our part, I think.
Of course, and if you actually watch Martial, Rashford and Greenwood playing, they drift all over the place.
Yeah.
And talk about keeping the defenders looking over their shoulders as to where they are, because it's beautiful to watch, isn't it? Free-flowing attack in football.
It is.
And when you have three players who are equally adept at playing in each position, it's wonderful to see.
It is, and it also makes it easier, as we said, for the midfielders, but also for the defence as well. When you've got more of a threat going forward, of course, teams aren't going to be swinging at us like they have been in recent years. Just before half-time, Scott, 41st minute, Aaron Wan-Bissaka down the right. He can't get forward, can he? Beautiful cross into Marcus Rashford. You said to me it was reminiscent of Cristiano Ronaldo in 2008 in the Luzhniki Stadium.
Just how he rose a foot higher than the defender, but what a wonderful cross. I think Wan-Bissaka might have been listening to us. Got his first assist of the season.
Yeah, and fair play to the lad. It was a really nice hung-up cross to the back post. Rashford had it all to do, to be fair. And like you said, his hang time was outrageous and a really, really powerful header.
Yeah, and don't forget, Wan-Bissaka had to beat the first man as well. He did that really well and then dinked in just a beautiful little sandwich, wasn't it?
It was lovely. Look, at half-time, we had Paul Pogba came on for Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay's picked up an injury. It looks like he's going to be out for a little while. Pogba came on for 45 minutes. What do you make of that, Scott? We're already up. Paul Pogba coming on for 45 minutes. What do you make of that decision?
Well, firstly, I have to say, Scott McTominay has done his knee and played 25 minutes on with a bad knee that's ligament damage. I don't know how wise that was. He also picked up the fastest booking ever in Premier League history, which I thought was a record he might not have wanted. But he was solid, and I think that you got to remember that this period is crazy, right? Playing 3 games in 6 days, playing 2 games in 50 hours, whatever it was. And to have a player come back from injury, whoever it is, regardless of whether it's Paul Pogba or whoever, it's tough on them. And I know he's up to all sorts, and God knows what else he's been doing over the weekend. But I was happy to see him come on. At least he didn't seem to have the attitude that he had before at the end of last season, but it wasn't his best display, was it?
No. I suspected when I saw Adidas had brought out a new Paul Pogba line, I did say he'll be back for a couple of games. And that's exactly what he was back for, right? A couple of games. And then he was off, we'll touch on the Burnley game, he was off coaching his brothers in France over the weekend for a charity game.
Yeah.
He was the manager.
Shame he couldn't tell his brother to put on some shorts. See that? Unbelievable.
But seriously,
What are you doing?
though, come on, you're getting paid top dollar. You're our most expensive player. You're a world record signing. Can you not just pop down to Turf Moor for the weekend
No.
and stop? Because look, we know already. It's already the PR offensive. You know, he's been to Miami. He's been playing basketball. He's been doing dancing at his brother's wedding. All kinds of things, and it's almost like well, it is like he just doesn't give a toss.
Yeah.
And that is what it is like, really. It is. I mean, look, he's played, what did he play, 26 minutes? And then he's played 45 minutes. And Ollie said that he's not fit to play 2 games in a row. That's fine. But you don't go off to France and blooming at the full when you could be supporting your teammates, I don't think. Didn't even post anything on social media on Saturday night either.
I don't think we can read too much into it anymore. It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
It is. Look, Anthony Martial on the 51st minute, it was Henry-esque to my mind. Aaron Wan-Bissaka putting on the pressure again. Andreas Pereira out on the right putting in pressure again. He marched away and he just clipped it in with consummate ease, didn't he? It was a really, really lovely finish.
Yeah, he is lights out on one-on-ones, isn't he? He's just so calm, and it just reminds me of Eric a little bit, how he just saunters up there, waits for the keeper to commit, and dinks it the other way.
You never know quite what he's going to do. Poke it, chip it, clip it, slide it. You're right, Eric. They're so different, the two players, but that you might be spot on with in terms of a similarity there.
All right.
Look, so 61st minute, we were pretty much over the hills and far away. We had Jesse Lingard came on for Marcus Rashford on the 63rd minute. Mata on for Martial on the 67th, so saving the guys. Obviously, we had Burnley coming up just a couple of days later. 4-1, we were well within our rights to just see that game out, weren't we, Scott?
Yeah, and it was, at least nice that we didn't concede another goal. It was just one momentary lapse of concentration, and it put us in good stead for the next game.
It did, Scott, and also we had, of course, 73% possession to 27 in our favour. So,
oh yeah, first game in months that we've won with more possession.
There you go, eh? But the stats on the whole were telling a good story, as they haven't been recently. 22 shots to 7, 10 on target to 2, 5 corners to 0, and 10 fouls for us, 7 to them, which I'm always happy with. So, yes, Scott, man of the match for me?
I think you got to say Anthony Martial. I'd love to give it to Greenwood, but Martial got us the goal to get us back in it, and the one to send us away far and clear. So, yeah, Anthony Martial.
I would have to agree with that in that one, Scott. Anthony Martial, superb. And look, we've always said it, if he can just keep his head right, keep his fitness right, he's a real player, isn't he?
He is, and he is one of those that really plays better with more confidence. So
yeah,
let's hope that the next few months he can stay injury free, and hopefully he can bang in a dozen goals.
Yeah, well, we had his missus, didn't we, coming out and saying that he really struggled under Mourinho. He felt that he wasn't wanted, and now he's feeling like he's coming back into play. Obviously, I take it with a pinch of salt coming from the missus, but that's what she's saying. So hopefully, it's onwards and upwards for Anthony Martial, because he has all the potential in the world. It's just about putting it into some consistency for us.
Yeah, agree with that.
So, mate, we moved on to Burnley, away to Burnley. We were all expecting a real tough game. In terms of the lineup, we had David De Gea in goal still. Ashley Young came in at right back. Lindelof and Maguire started again at centre back. Now, Phil Jones was on the bench on Boxing Day, and Phil Jones was also on the bench against Burnley as well. Lindelof and Maguire played 90 minutes in both games. To me, it seems that they're playing too many games, Lindelof and Maguire. It seems like they're playing every blooming game together. Toanzebe once in a while.
Yeah, but Phil Jones is rubbish, let's be honest.
I know. But
the games we have him, we don't win, and we have to bring him off at half-time because he's been calamitous. And if anything, Eric Bailly's just come back into full training now, so let's hope we've got another proper set of legs that we can use. I don't think we can count on Phil Jones now, especially not that we're actually within reach of something,
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we should play Phil Jones necessarily. I'm just asking, why did Ollie keep Phil Jones if he doesn't want to use him?
I don't think he could get rid of him.
Yeah, but you got rid of Smalling. He could have kept him. It's mental. It's mental that we've got rid of Smalling and we've kept to.
Yeah, but okay. So the Newcastle away game, I think Phil Jones played, right, and he was dreadful.
Yep.
And so he's obviously thought, okay, can't play against Newcastle because he got butchered last time he played. And then we go away at Burnley, and it's a very physical game a couple of days after Christmas, freezing. He's probably thinking Phil Jones isn't right for this either. I've got Maguire's now pretty undroppable, and it's pretty much who plays with Maguire.
Yeah.
And he sees him in training every day, and you can see who's fit enough for the games. And it was just a judgment call, right? I'm sure if we had more trusted defenders that we could use, we probably would have used them. But
I totally agree, Scott. I'm not suggesting we should have played Phil Jones. I'm saying that we're now going to play Arsenal on New Year's Day, and we're going to play Lindelof and Maguire again, aren't we?
yeah, and I hope so too.
And no, but me too. But in the end, we're also playing Rashford every game. We're also playing Martial every game. We were playing McTominay every game. We can't do that anymore. To me, it seems we're playing a lot of players again and again because we don't have the squad depth. But we said this at the end of the summer, didn't we? We said that we're short in the defence, we're short in the midfield and up front. And I'm just worried that we are showing a bit of form. As you say, we are in touch and distance now. We're only 4 points off Chelsea in 4th place. But every time we get close to something that we can actually go for, first of all, the mentality drops. And second of all, we start picking up injuries because we've just been on a good run because we've been playing the same first 11 for the last however many weeks. That's the problem I have going forward.
Yeah, I just don't think he's got another choice. As I say, I think that we're stuck with the players we've got. And as I say, Bailly coming back in, let's hope we can have a defender who's actually good enough to play and not be just calamitous.
I know, but I guess it's back to the old getting rid of the dead wood debate, isn't it? And not replacing them.
Mm-hmm.
But look, so that was the back four. Brandon Williams back on the left, so Luke Shaw dropped out. We had Fred and actually Nemanja Matic start alongside Fred, and they actually played all right together for once. Andres Pereira kept the number 10 role. Danny James back in on the right. Martial and Rashford keep their places too. So look, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 changes.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, although I'm saying about Smalling and Jones and whatever, I thought Ollie managed the squad very well over Christmas.
I do agree, and I'll be honest, as you know, I sent you a text that first time I saw the squad, I was worried. I thought,
yeah, you were.
no Wan-Bissaka, Matic and Fred. Again, just no Pogba. I was amazed to see he wasn't even on the bench.
Oh yeah, he had more important things to do.
Obviously, yeah.
It was always going to be a tough game away to Burnley, but Anthony Martial was the man again. Andres Pereira, look, it was sensational stuff from him, you have to say, for that first goal there. The pressure out on the right, the way he robbed the ball into Martial, it was really top class stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely was.
Superb from him. And look, it was one of those games where you've played 2 days before, you know it's not going to be a performance to set the world alight, but after taking points against a team that we expected to take points against in Newcastle at home, and then going away to Burnley at a team we're expected to take points against, but it is a tricky place to go. I think above performances, the 6 points was the most crucial thing. And you have to say Ollie and the boys delivered.
Massively. If you put your hand on your heart, you've got to be honest and say that we've got to put points over performance these days. And you prefer to go and win scrappy at Burnley and get a last-minute goal to make it 2-0, probably a scoreline that maybe flattered us a little bit, instead of going there and playing beautifully and winning 2-0 at an absolute canter.
Well, I guess this is the kind of conundrum we're in at the moment, isn't it? We're led to believe that we are forward planning and we've got a project, and that we should be thankful that we're playing the youngsters and that we're building towards something. But then on the other hand, we need to be picking up points, don't we, too?
Mm-hmm.
And with this whole forward vision thing, the thing that keeps on popping up in my head, people say, oh, don't worry. Ollie said, actually, it was just after we did the last podcast, so we didn't mention it. But Ollie said, look, this season will be used to select the players for next season. And that was before we got these 6 points on the board and Ollie was feeling a bit of pressure. But I thought that was an awful, awful thing to say because he said it last season. He said last season was going to be used to select the players for this season too. So, yeah, in terms of that, I think personally, if you do not put the points on the board, if you don't qualify for Champions League, Europa League, whatever it might be, the quality of players you can then attract is a lower level. And then surely it takes another extra season to get back to where you want to get to in the first place, no?
Yeah, but I think we're learning that it's a slower process than any of us would have hoped or led to believe, given the first 12 games.
Only for United. Yeah. Only for United, right? No, every other club it's different. Only for United. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, they don't do this. When you've ever heard any of those clubs write off a season, it's nonsense, Scott. Come on.
Well,
they've never come. You ever heard one of their managers come out and say, "Oh, by the way, you just forget this season. Next season's the one." Never happens. I honestly think it's very bizarre what's going on at United at the moment. We're trying to find a reason for the thing that boggles my mind is that we have all these rules, these self-written rules from within our own club that we have to follow, and it actually stops us from progressing as quickly as other clubs. It's just bizarre. I don't. We have to follow certain formation, a certain way of playing. All the players have got to love the club. Or, the manager's got to love the club. The manager's got to be from the club. We've got to have so many youth players. It's almost like we're trying to do ourselves in.
Yeah, we're handicapping ourselves.
Because we're one of the 5 richest clubs in the world. We've got the financial power. To me, the highest probability tactic would be to get the best manager possible, to get the best squad possible, to get the best coaching staff possible, and go from there.
Yeah, but it's just not the United way, right? And the club is more important than the team, if you know what I mean.
I mean, how many homegrown talents started the 2008 Champions League final?
Let's see, Paul Scholes, Wes Brown.
Yep.
Is that it? Giggsy, yeah, Giggsy started, right?
Giggsy came on.
Giggsy came on. Are you sure?
No, well, I asked you the question, Scott, so you tell me.
Oh yeah, Giggsy did come on, didn't he?
No, Giggsy definitely came on. I know that.
Yeah. Just confused me because he had that chance that John Terry scored off the line, and it was to the right goal, right?
Unbelievable.
And
but
that was an extra time. Yeah,
unbelievable clearance by John Terry. By the way, I always had some silent respect for the passion of that guy. That clearance was off the blooming chain. Unbelievable.
Yeah, if he had put that penalty in, that would have been his biggest moment of his entire career, right?
It would. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right there. I think it is. It's Scholesy and Wes Brown.
Yeah.
So there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
But look, we had a lovely Christmas. I don't want to get negative, but look, 95th minute, Daniel James. You said it was a bit scrappy. It wasn't that scrappy. Danny James threw, beautiful ball to Rashford, round the keeper, lovely 2-footed challenge to put it in. What are you worried about?
No, I just meant that the game in general was a bit scrappy, right?
I know. But it was nice to see Rashford. That was a really, really good finish in the end. I know he slipped over, but to take it round the keeper there, it was composed. It was a guy on top form, wasn't it?
It was also exactly what you want to see Danny James do, and something that if we can use him more of an impact sub and bring him on at 60 minutes and he can just tear teams apart, I think we'll be in a much better position. Yeah,
and look, we finished with 61% possession to 39, 14 shots to 8, 5 on target to 1. They had 5 corners to our 4, 17 fouls to our 10. But again, the stats heavily in our favour, Scott. 2 games in a row against teams that we should be dominating. And we did, to be fair.
Yeah, couldn't believe it. Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Yeah. And you got a man of the match for me away to Burnley.
You know it is, don't you? It's my boy Brandon Williams. He was top draw.
He really was, wasn't he? And again, I have to say, great play by Ollie. Took him out the firing line. Gave Shaw the game at home. Lots of people thought it should have been the other way around. But I would say Brandon Williams was more than equipped to go away to Turf Moor. And he, like you say, he got the official man of the match as well, I believe.
Yeah, he did.
Superb stuff. So listen, mate, we've had a bit of news over the last couple of days. Erling Braut Haaland, we thought he was on his way, didn't we, after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's comments? But he has signed for Borussia Dortmund for the release clause that you told me that wasn't available for people who weren't RB Leipzig.
20-odd million, yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of that? There's been a little bit of a bust up between Raiola and United. Raiola's saying that we've briefed the press saying that Raiola was asking for a release clause and a cut, and it's not true. And the press is saying that is true. So pick the bones out of that for me, Scott, if you may.
I don't know. I'm never going to understand Mino Raiola, and I'm actually going to give up trying. It's the kind of thing that it's the more understandable move. It's probably the easier move for him to move from Austria to Germany. Less pressure, and he's still so young that Raiola's got to think he's got a massive transfer coming up in a few years, and I don't think it's the last time we're going to be linked with Erling Haaland.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it, isn't there? There's one way to look at it that if the release clause did exist and they insisted on a release clause and we turned it down, then that means that if you're correct and we are going to be linked again, then it's going to be very easy dealing with Borussia Dortmund because we know there's a release clause there and we know how much it is because they offered it to us. So that's going to be very easy.
Well, yeah. Well, there's one thing that the release clause you got to pay them, and then there's also the agent's fee as well.
Yeah.
So it's the 20-odd million plus the 12 million you got to pay Raiola.
Yeah.
But what I actually read was they were negotiating to have like a 50% of the sell-on fee.
Yes.
And essentially own half of him and own half his value, and it was something that we didn't want any part of.
Yeah.
And I'm actually quite glad.
Yeah, I would say, look, we've got, if a player's available for such a small amount, then you have to play the game, don't you? If he's available for 20 million, and the likelihood is you're going to sell him for however many fold of that 20 million, then giving away some of the sell on rights is not such a bad idea, because you're getting a player who's not worth 20 million. You're getting a player who's worth way more than 20 million. I mean, we signed that Aaron Wan-Bissaka for 50 million quid, for God's sake. Now, Erling Braut Haaland at this stage in time is a more valuable asset than Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I mean, you weren't having Juventus and everybody going after Wan-Bissaka. We had a free run and we paid 50 million for him. So,
yeah, but just think for a second who you're signing there. You're signing a player who's represented by Mino Raiola, who in a few years is going to be incentivized massively to get tens of millions of pounds to sell him on. Yeah. It's the kind of thing that we need to stay a million miles away from. And as I say, I'm glad we did.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I do notice that all Raiola's clients do seem to like him a lot. They don't seem to think he's doing anything bad. And also, I would say that I presume that we offered Haaland more money than Dortmund did, just from knowing the two clubs. So in general, people criticise players for going for too much money. If Raiola's advising him to go to where there's a better career progression and better chance to earn money in the future, look, I'm not a Raiola fan. I'm just well aware that Zlatan Ibrahimovic is represented by Mino Raiola, and no one ever complains about us signing Zlatan. Mm-hmm. They just rewrite the history, and they just pretend that Raiola didn't represent Zlatan. Mm-hmm. But Zlatan loves Raiola. Mm-hmm. Zlatan posts all kinds of stuff, just saying, you're my man, you're my boy.
Yeah, he's a bit mental, Zlatan. Come on,
he is a bit mental, but Zlatan was strong enough to make his own decisions, and Raiola kind of let him. Right, there was no trouble with Zlatan and Raiola.
Yeah, but Zlatan's not the kind of guy you see getting led by Raiola like Paul Pogba.
Yeah, no. Look, I'm not in the Raiola camp. You know that. I'm just saying we're not in a position where we can kind of turn people down for this. Again, we're going back to the thing again, all these unwritten rules. Are we now going to not sign anyone represented by Raiola? And then that's another whole unwritten rule that we can't.
No, I think we're just making an excuse. I think we're just justifying and rationalising the fact we didn't get him.
Yeah, and I will say that it's a bit disappointing, because Ollie did say that the player knows where he wants to go. I know where he wants to go. So has he changed his mind, or why on earth was Ollie saying that? If he knew he was going to Dortmund, then Ollie should have been like, yeah, not interested, whatever. If he thought he was coming to United, he's changed his mind in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that is something you can maybe look a bit more into. That one press conference he did have, it looked like the cat who got the cream.
Yep.
For it to fall through is probably pretty disappointing for him too, but onwards and upwards, we've got different positions that we need to strengthen. And if anything, him coming in is a place that Mason Greenwood is begging for, and that we're all begging for him to have. So, it might not be the worst thing.
Yeah, but just one injury to Martial, which will happen. And we're going to be short, aren't we? Yeah, I would say, look, the only thing I would ask you, Scott, is does this shed a bad light on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's position? This is a guy who Ole brought through at Mulder, who Ole has flown out to Salzburg for all intents and purposes to try and snag this signing. He's obviously told Woodward that he trusts the player, he knows the player inside out, and we haven't signed him. Is that a sign that Ollie's position is not as secure as people believe it is?
No, I don't think you should get that from that. He just might not be the best at negotiating. And, if he went to Salzburg to see if he could change his mind and he couldn't do it, then that's it. And in Solskjaer's manner, he just sort of bucks up and gets on with it. And it's no big deal. I know where he's going. He's not coming here. So let's just move on with it.
Yeah. I would say out of all the players in the world who I thought Ollie may be able to convince, I thought that this guy was at the top of the list. So it does disappoint me a little bit, but we don't know the ins and outs. We really don't. And it might be Woodward again. We will see with that. Look, Jadon Sancho, the rumours keep on coming. Of course, Erling Haaland has arrived at Dortmund, so they've got an extra striker there. Alcacer hardly ever plays there anyway. Do you think that's a possibility now? Do you think our chances have increased of signing Jadon Sancho in January after that move?
Perhaps. I still don't think it will. I don't think it will happen. I think it's too big of a transfer to happen now. I think £100 million transfer, especially if they're in the next round of the Champions League.
Yeah.
I would see it's more of something that we could perhaps negotiate now for the summer, but I wouldn't imagine it would be happening this January, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we'll park the transfer talk because we got loads of chat about in January, haven't we, about the transfers. Just a quickie, Craig Mawson from Burnley, as it happens, has joined United as the new goalkeeper and coach, replacing Emilio Alvarez. And I think it's probably needed, isn't it? Dave's form is not great at the moment. And Craig Mawson has overseen the development of Tom Heaton and Pope. Both got into the England side. And I think if you asked when they joined Burnley if they would be England goalkeepers, you'd probably say they wouldn't be. So maybe this guy knows his stuff.
Yeah, let's hope so. And the other big news is the return of David Moyes.
Here we go.
You got your Christmas wish. If you have a second, you got to watch his first interview where he's saying, "I've got a great win ratio." Oh, it's comedy.
You give him a couple of months off, and he's back to thinking he's the blooming dog's balls. Yeah,
He's the best.
Unbelievable. Thanks for joining us again, Reds. Watch out for our end of decade review dropping on the 1st of January. Thanks for joining me again, Scott.
Thank you, TC.
Happy New Year, Reds. Cheerio.
Tara.